collaboration with the Cyprus Mail, this is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
Coming up this week, pressure mounts on the Interior Minister to rectify the situation at the Pournara detention camp.
One small bottle of water per day. They have only 1 hour water for shower and cleaning. Or they mentioned that the food is not enough. They are not offered milk for the children. So we need to continue to discuss and to demand to see the conditions in the Pournara place and really improve them. Is not enough to say that there are some changes and improvements.
And after a long lockdown, St Paul's Cathedral is raising funds this weekend with a book fair.
We've also been giving out hot meals to the refugees and people in need and food parcels over the last 3 months, but we haven't had any income coming in. And so I need to find a way that brings folk together in a safe way, but also raises money for the cathedral. We don't get support from anywhere else. We have to self-support, and our coffers are low.
We've reported before on the plight of asylum seekers and refugees who are, in effect, I think you could say, interned, certainly detained in the Pournara camp just outside Nicosia. Now, some of the conditions there have improved because there was an outcry originally, but my next guest is a member of the House of Representatives Committee on Human Rights, and she joins us because she visited the camp to see what was going on earlier this week. Skevi Kukuma, thank you very much indeed for joining us. There are so many different issues here, but let's start with the one that's very much in the press this week, and that was the fact that unaccompanied, underaged people were being held in this camp along with the adults, and I think there were some issues there. Can you enlighten us?
Yes, I will try to do so. First of all, I have registered the subject to the Human Rights Committee on behalf of my party, and it took some time to manage to have the minister with us to discuss the issue, because as you can understand, it is an issue of political decision, so it was not enough to have some staff of the ministry to discuss the issue and not to have the correct and more detailed answers. So we managed last Monday to start the discussion. The minister was present, as well as the representative from the Commissioners for Human Rights Office, the Commissioner for the Protection of the Rights of the Children, and the UN High Commissioner in Cyprus. So we started to discussing and to demand actually for answers from the minister and the various other departments. We should actually go first to manage to have the visit at first and then the discussion at the parliament. But it was anyway something that creates some conditions to exercise pressure and manage to take decisions and improve some conditions there. As you mentioned before, the issue of the unaccompanied minors, that we were always thinking about them. Various information mention some situation there, but the information that we received by the representative of the United Nations High Commissioner was really shocking. And of course, we should admit, and all the ministries and commissioners should admit, that we should know and should take actions before we were astonished by the information that the UN High Commissioner was informed us. Since there are minors, we need to take different actions, very strict actions towards supporting these children, unaccompanied minors. They were not here with their families, they were alone, unaccompanied. And it is really very surprisingly, when somebody reads the the report of the Commissioner for Human Rights that she visited the area in April, and she asked for information about unaccompanied minors. She received the information that there were not unaccompanied minors there. There are only minors that they declare as minors. They state that they are minors and that they are not really minors. And there were also about 47 minors or persons that they declare that they are minors.
Skevi, let me interrupt a moment. Let's clarify this, because in fairness to the people who are dealing with asylum applications, when people come in who have no papers, it is, I think, documented that some of them may be of adult age but claiming to be minors.
Yes.
What sort of situation can be put into place so that if there's any doubt whatsoever, the age of these people can be established very quickly to decide whether or not they will be put with other adults? Because we've heard, I don't know if it's true, claims of some sexual abuse and some harassment and so on. And it's desperately important that if they are underage, they're given the protection that they're supposed to have.
Yes, they should, since they were not sure about their age, they should speed up the test to find out whether, there are various ways to find out about the children's age, and they should do it. They should have done it, actually. Instead of leaving these children accommodated in the areas where adult people were there. And there were informations that for these children, there were harassment, actually, while they were having a shower or while were in the queue waiting to get food, inappropriate touch by some adult men. So all this should have been taken in consideration on time, not leaving months, because some of the children were in the camp since January, February, and we are in June now.
That brings us to another question, and that is that this camp, as far as I know, was originally set up so that newly arriving asylum seekers could undergo medical checks, could have the first basic steps taken, and they were only supposed to be there for, was it 72 hours? How come some of them have been there for months now?
Exactly, those are the questions from all of us. We could understand the measures taken due to the COVID-19, but we met people that they were there since January. So the government's decision to try to avoid people coming to Cyprus by creating this is not a place to host or to welcome people in Cyprus, is really a detention place. They are not allowed to go out. They were not allowed due to the COVID-19 protection measures, but this continues, and they started since January. So there is no excuse why they changed the regulations of having this place, giving the chance to people for the first examinations, their papers, their health situation, and there are many issues that really create sadness, anger to us, why we were not on time to support people, especially the minors.
Right.
Nobody visit them, not the social welfare office to speak with them. Only, as they said, only the police that when they arrive in Cyprus met them and take them to the place. These minors, these young people, but also the adult as well, because there are people coming from the war areas. They probably live in violence and abuse, so they needed to have more support, either with doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists as well, because they need support and to relieve them from the negative effect of the war that they were living.
Skevi, let's go.
Accompanied minors that they came to Cyprus to meet their families, to meet other relatives, and they are kept there. They continue to be there. And if there is an issue, a positive issue of the discussion on Monday, is when the situation with the minors, the unaccompanied minors, were raised during the discussion. By the afternoon, Monday afternoon, these minors were moved to other places. And this is where we met them yesterday. And they mentioned to us that they were moved to the other places, not the tents, but plastic houses. I don't know how to say.
Porter cabins.
So there are a lot of things to do for these children. There are children that they face tuberculosis issues. So we need to give more support to these young people. But for all the people there as well, we met people with having their alien book on hand, and they are kept in their area. This alien book, it means that they are allowed to stay in Cyprus. So
what are they doing? Sorry, Skevi, what are they then doing in a place that is being used, in effect, to lock up new arrivals?
The government decided that instead of giving them money to rent or to rent hotels for those people, they concentrate all the people, they transfer all the people that they were living in various areas in all the towns in Cyprus. They transfer these people in the Pournara area. So whatever was the conditions, they were moved there. So there are a lot of things to do, and really somebody must take the political responsibilities for that. Either is the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the Ministry of Social Welfare, Labour and Social Welfare, because it's not fair for so many months people living in such conditions.
And the conditions are pretty terrible, aren't they? I mean, I've seen films of them. I've used those films in a programme several weeks ago. I think things have improved slightly in terms of the availability of washing facilities, but as you point out, they're not private. So there are still a lot of problems. But Skevi, can I just come back?
Due to various NGOs and giving and offering to people soap, for example, various things that people need. But it's not fair that these people are allowed one small bottle of water per day. They have only 1 hour water for shower and cleaning. Or they mention that the food is not enough. They are not offered meat for the children. So we need to continue to discuss and to demand to see the conditions in the Pournara place and really improve them. It's not enough to say that there are some changes and improvements.
Right, now then let's talk, if we can, a moment, Skevi, first of all about all those different issues you've mentioned that I'm sure that your committee in Parliament is following up and dealing with. We have had a little bit of good news, but you said something earlier that really struck a chord with me, and that is that the reason given at the beginning for all of these people, whether they had their alien certificates or not, to be rounded up and herded into these, let's face it, very basic camping conditions, was due to COVID-19. Now, the government itself says that you must not have more than however many people it is in close proximity to each other. You've got something like, is it 700 people in that camp?
Yeah, maybe now they start moving people, but they were 700. But the government is satisfied because the area is for 1,000 people. But 1,000 really is people under tents that they are put in the ground, without any cement or any protection. We saw the children yesterday with the mothers, the whole day the ground.
Well, I've seen the photographs of the tents, and there are like 8 beds in there. So that is not social distancing.
I remember when it was raining, and these tents were in the water.
Yes, they were flooded.
Flooded, exactly. And the beds, they were flooded in the water. So, and the minister was explaining to us that he took some measures and he put a special soil that absorbed the water. This is not something to express our satisfaction. We saw the situation, the sun, the temperature, and the soil, the dust really creates a situation that is not healthy for children and for anybody to live in such conditions.
No, indeed. And can I just also say, Skevi, can I just also say, if at the moment an open-air entertainment venue that is supposed to cater for 1,000 people has 700 people in there, are they breaking the law?
I'm not sure.
I suspect they are.
Because it depends on the how the COVID-19 measures are, I don't know how to say,
interpreted.
But it's not easy. We need to do things. Entertainment as well is something important, especially for children. They don't have. There is a small playground, but they cannot visit it because they are in the separate area. They have some separations that either they are people that they arrived lately and they need to have there for 14 days for the COVID-19 measures. So there are a lot of things to do to improve their situation, to give enough food, to give enough water and drinks, a juice, a coffee, milk for the children, enough water to have showers, to clean themselves, to clean their clothes. All these small things, but very important for these people.
Absolutely. Skevi, what's your next move? I mean, this was discussed in the committee, and I know that Katja Sacha, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugee representative here, has brought this as well very much to the government's attention. But I presume you have to prioritise because you're not going to get everything you want done very quickly. So what are your priorities now?
We will continue to demand to follow the situation in the area. It's not easy because we only have a few meetings yet until the parliament close. But I will insist before the final close of the parliament in July to have another meeting and see what was the next steps. And of course, if we manage to visit again the area, it is better to have your personal witnessing the situation instead of having information by various government departments that sometimes or most of the times they present it in a more
they
nice
pinkwash
way,
it.
that everything is improving and everybody is happy, for example. Of course, it is very helpful that we have the UN High Commissioner supporting, supervising the issue. I expect that the European Commission as well will demand to be informed how the 100 millions were offered by various projects of the European Commission for this issue. And we should examine what happened, how it was spent, what we have left yet, or if there is something else to receive, since we have a big portion of the asylum seekers in the area, as you can understand. Cyprus, we have the occupied part where asylum seekers could come from Turkey. They are supported for that. So there are a lot of things to do. So we are sure that we could do the most we can for these people.
That's great news.
Our responsibility is to stop the wars so that these people are not running away from their countries and from their homes, and to stay there without running to other countries for shelter, and to have children sent by their families alone. And you can imagine any mother and father to do so.
Yeah, and I have to say that most of the asylum seekers or refugees that I've met have said that as soon as the war stops in their country, they want to go home. They don't want to be here in the first place. But Skevi, let me just finally very quickly, we're getting short of time, ask you one thing. You sort of read my mind when you started talking about the European funding that we receive. ESO has given us a very large amount of money to help us deal with asylum seekers and refugees. What transparency is there to parliamentarians and indeed the general public as to exactly how that money has been or is being spent?
We were discussing this issue yesterday at the camp, actually, at the Pournara camp. The Minister and the Secretary General of my party, Mr. Andros Kyprianou, and we demand to have information about all the projects that are implemented in Cyprus, what is the amount and how they were spent. And I think this is a precondition of the European Commission of how we spent, and they are demanding to supervise and to be informed of how we are dealing with this issue. And really, if we spend the money on sometimes creating infrastructures, it is important. But there are maybe issues that we should discuss and find out how this money are spent.
Skevi Kukuma, member of the House of Representatives Standing Committee on Human Rights, thank you very much for your time and your frankness in joining us on the programme this week.
Thank you very much. My pleasure to inform people all the situations that affect human rights in Cyprus.
This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
Those of you familiar with Nicosia will know that St Paul's Anglican Cathedral has a bookshop. It's a very popular part of the culture of our capital city because people donate their books and then other people come to buy them. It all supports the necessary work that goes on at St Paul's. And joining us to tell us about a special event happening tomorrow is the Dean of St Paul's, Jeremy Crocker. Jeremy, I know that this is a regular thing, the bookshop, but you've got a particularly special event happening tomorrow.
What we've done is, over the last 3 months during lockdown, we've done a lot to try and help the community. And now I need to focus on the cathedral to bring folk together, but equally to raise monies because our coffers are low now.
Yeah, I suppose you haven't been having church services for a start, I don't suppose, have you?
We haven't had church services. We've been doing Zoom as best as we can. We've had folk joining us from all over the world. And we've also been giving out hot meals to the refugees and people in need and food parcels over the last 3 months. But we haven't had any income coming in. No car boot, no quiz, no Mayfair, no summer meal, no users, no collections. And so I need to find a way that brings folk together in a safe way, but also raises money for the cathedral. We don't get support from anywhere else. We have to self-support, and our coffers are low. They are low.
And I presume that apart from the general upkeep, I mean, the church itself is fairly old, isn't it? Do you have to do restoration works intermittently and so on?
We do. We have to raise money. It's about 125 years old, or slightly more, and we have to try and cope with all of it. We've got a wonderful deanery that we want to keep because of its historic value as well, and the hall, which is really nice, but we have to keep it all going and also pay salaries and keep the show on the road. We really have to.
So you've been sorting through all the books, have you, while you've been on lockdown, because there are an awful lot of them.
And we've been given a lot of new, very interesting books that I suppose folk during the 3 months have sorted through their houses and sorted through some of the things they don't need. And we've got a whole new array of genres and categories of books. And so we have a lot to look at. And I love the bookshop. I sit there often on a Saturday morning with different folk coming for coffee, with cake. I love what it stands for, what it represents. It's been there a long time now. But we do have many new books, many interesting categories for folk to come and look at if they'd like to.
Can you give us an example? Because, again, when I've been browsing in there, you've got the novels, you've got the biographies, but you've also got some quite good coffee table books, I think.
We have some that people really like to read. We've also got poetry. I love poetry. Alexander McCarran is often leaving in the corner a book of poems that I can read. We've got the classics. We've got a lot of encyclopedias. It's hard just to summarise what we've got. We've got a lot of broad-ranging books that people really love to pick up and take. And rather than just look at them on the computers, I still think there's a huge, enormous value in having the book in your hand and reading it.
Yeah, the hard copy, it's something that a lot of people miss if they use Kindles and things, I think.
I don't think it's handy with our lives and moving around with a Kindle, but to have the real book in your hand, I think you still can't beat it.
And I love the fact that in some of the books you'll find dedications on the first page. You know, they were given to somebody as a birthday present or whatever years and years ago. So you're also sharing a bit of history almost.
We are sharing a bit of history, and also the people who have been popping into that bookshop over such a long period of time now, and some of the characters that we've lost who helped set it up, like Tim Lewis, he helped set it up. He sadly died a couple of years back. We also have, they call them the bookworms, ladies and gents who work faithfully every week just to sort through, to meet, to talk and share and to be there. And I've never been anywhere that has its own little bookshop that, for particularly English speaking, is a very up-to-date, and we get through a lot of books. A lot of people donate, a lot of people buy. We get through a lot happens at that little place.
And it's not just books, actually, is it? I mean, is tomorrow's event only books, but you have other things in the bookshop too, don't you?
No, we've got art. People have donated lots of different art. That we're doing a big art feature. We're having an afternoon tea. We've been pondering what we can do that's safe, that will be very pleasant. So we're doing an afternoon tea outside that folk can sit with the person they come with or at a distance from others and enjoy a cup of tea and an afternoon tea. And we've got some very fine, I call it bric-a-brac, but just some nice items that are second-hand, but very, very nice items, where folk usually at the Mayfair or at the Christmas fair, they like to come and browse through the very nice items that we have.
So you're raising funds for the church, but of course the main amount of funding that you get, I presume, is from your congregations. Now, you've had several months where you haven't been able to conduct church services. Are you doing those again?
Yes, we've been doing Zoom all through, but when the government announced we were allowed to have services with certain distancing rules, we have. So from the last Sunday in May, we began again, and now our numbers are normally about 90 on a Sunday morning. So to cope with that and the amount of room we have in the cathedral, we're doing 2 services now each Sunday morning, the usual 9:30, which is as normal as we can be, and then a 10:30, which is just a short, simple said Holy Communion at 10:30.
So
both are back, but many are not back yet because they're waiting, and they're understandably they're just waiting. But some are back and some are not back yet.
But it's a small building, isn't it, the cathedral? So if you've got to social distance, does the sort of overflow join in the garden, or do they wait for the second service?
We haven't quite got to overflow yet. Where we're allowed up to 40, we're at 30. So when we hit 40 or more, it's my worry that folk will come and they can't come in. But we haven't hit that yet. We're at 30, where the number for both services is at 40. And then we have another user called the International Church. They are meeting again at 11:30, but their numbers are small as well. So we are back, but our numbers are small. Folk have been very generous, but we haven't had giving for 3 months, proper giving of users of the hall or of congregation's collection. So we need to do this event to try and bolster our coffers. Our coffers have got quite low now.
So you're hoping to raise some funds for the cathedral. So remind us again, it's in the grounds of St Paul's Cathedral in Nicosia. Opening and closing times?
It's opening at 5 p.m, closing at 7. Please come, and it will be safe, and I hope folk are still reluctant to come out. I hope this is a way that's a safe way to bring folk out again, to see each other and to help raise some needed funds for the cathedral.
And we have to emphasise, of course, that it's all out in the open air where it's much easier to social distance.
Yes, it is.
Jeremy Crocker, Dean of St Paul's Cathedral in Nicosia, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.